Hello and welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and today's first impressions video is Miniart's 1:35 scale Type 170V Lieferwargen. That's a van based on the 170V Mercedes saloon car to you. Right then, this kit started out as something totally different way back in 2012 when Miniart released their first Type 170V kit. They released as the sort of civilian saloon car. They've done lots of different iterations of it, military versions, all the various different soft tops, hard tops, and then they moved into van. This version came out in 2020. So it's kit number 38040, and what we've got is a German delivery van with a roof rack, and be interested to see if we get that in there as well, and that'd be nice. We've got a nice piece of artwork on the top. On the side, we've got the same information pretty much. It's the same on both sides. We've got the standard Miniart information, contact information, warnings, and so on. And then on this side, as per usual, we've got 4 different paint options. We might have more, but we're showing at least 4 there. So we've got some really good options there, including a really nice yellow post van. Now, I've bought this to go on a diorama. I keep going on about this diorama, and later in the year we'll talk more about it when we go into planning. But right now we're going to have a look at this, so let's see what's in there. Our instructions are the typical Miniart A4 colour, stapled. With the way they work is you get these sort of part profile pictures and a technical drawing, and it all looks, you know, very manual like. And as per always, they give you some of the details of the kit to tempt you into what you've bought into already. Highly detailed model. All doors can be posed open and closed. Photo etch parts included. Clear parts included. Decal sheet for 4 variants. Cart and paper boxes included. Lovely. Okay, so their general instructions, as they say. Let's open that up and have a look. And as always, we're greeted with 2 of the paint options. So chocolate delivery, Berlin, 30s to 40s. And it looks that sort of chocolatey, doesn't it? I quite like that one, although I'm unlikely to do it. However, the decals could come in quite handy for one of the buildings on the street that I'm planning. And then we've got a couple of chocolate boxes, so that's really quite nice. Then on this version, we have, apologies for the sunlight, we have delivery of ink and posted paints. So, okay. So that gives us green colours, and this time we've got boxes that go in the roof rack as well as boxes for the stand. So, okay, very cool. Let's go to the back now and have a look at the options at the back. So we've got Deutsche Post, Germany 50s. So this is a post-war version. Obviously Mercedes, when they were getting themselves back on their feet after the war, it's the 170V they started producing first. So there was a number of these knocking around. So if you want to do an early Cold War Iron Curtain period vehicle, you've got a good option here. And then you've got the one that's depicted on the box art, which is food delivery. It's somewhere in Germany, 30s to 40s. So can't read that upside down, apologies. So I quite like this one. I like the colours. They're very different. We've got boxes for the roof rack and different boxes there, and basically it's delivering all sorts of different foods. So we can see tea, coffee, margarine. So, and I can't even read German, so there you go. I like this. I like the decals for it. I think it'll look really good. Now, if you watched my small scale car buddy build, some of these will be familiar because a lot of the kit parts will be common. So let's have a look. We've got 1, 2, 3 large sprues, wheel and tyre sprues, a couple of smaller sprues, door sprue there, clear parts. A lot of that already looks familiar. Looks like we've got 2 different chassis bases. We've got the decal sheet there with all the various different markings on, which is nice, and then our photo etch, which includes the grille, which is always good. And then in the bottom corner here we have our colour chart for Vallejo, Mr. Colour, AK Real Colour, Mission Models, MIG by Ammo, and Tamiya. So let's have a look at our build steps. So this is all very familiar. The engine goes together really quite nicely. As I recall, the fiddly bits were really around some of the photo etch, but it all went together okay. So we're building up the engine block, timing manifolds. If you paint them separately, they can look really quite nice. We've got the cover there that has a little bolt detail that needs to go on, showing you the photo etch going on. Then we build all that up. Then we have to make some length of brake pipe up, but it gives you the length and it gives you a 1-to-1 scale template to shape them, which is really nice. You can see them there. And then we have our framework. So these basically become the brake pipes. Then we're building up the suspension, and we've got really, really nice springs. The springs on here are a work of art. Various different suspension parts, the wheel hubs, some photo etch strapping, which again was a little tricky but is doable. Then we've got the leaf spring suspension across the front going on there, the drive shaft, exhaust unit. So all of that is exactly the same as the 170V cars, as is the bumper and the supports there for the mud guards. Then we're building up the engine bulkhead, which is exactly the same. Fuse boxes, tools, petrol tank, which sits in this recess here, you can see, and the pedals going on the inside. Now that pierce hole, that's only if you're putting in a military lamp on. So our dashboard is exactly the same as in the cars, as is the interior parts that we're building up here, the windscreen, little wiper motor. This is where we vary a little bit. We've got a back wall plate and the back of the seat, and then we've got a continuous seat. So rather than 2 separate seats being mounted, we've got a single seat. So that's where step 24 is the first time we do something a little bit different. And then as we pass into step 25, we're building up all the tyres, white wall tyres. And then we've got, I'm not quite sure what that is. Is that the floor pan going inside there? Levels that off by the looks of it. Oh yeah, with a little sleeve for the spare wheel. That's okay. Okay, I get that. Steering wheel with a bit of photo etch on. and then we've got the two panel sides and the van roof. So we'd have to look at the roof and see what we might want to do in the way of a lining or something. Not sure if I had a lining or not. Then the rear lights, which was at the bottom on the car, is then mounted on the roof, interestingly. We've got a rear door that's openable, and then the front forward-facing doors are built up exactly like the car. They've got the same pockets, winders and everything, which can be open or closed. Then we've got the radiator and the front grille there, with a little photo etch three-pronged star of Mercedes. Doing the other door, wiper blades. Doesn't that look easy on there? They're tiny, but we're putting them on. That then gets us to the bonnet. Now the bonnet, depending on whether you're having it open and closed, you've got different clip arrangements. It was a little fiddly, but looks really authentic when it's done. Yeah, bonnet was really nice. We're then putting the bracing in with the firewall and stuff. Now, I'll be honest, this is the area where I had the most issues with fit. Aligning all this was very difficult. And if I had my time again, I would not put the grille on until the side pieces were on, because it was very problematic. I'd put this in first and then, like the instructions say, tried to fit it. And the grille fit is not very positive in this little bit here. There's a little lip here. We'll show you when we look at the parts. It's very, very shallow and the fit is not positive. So we build all that up. Then we've got lamps and wing mirrors. Looks like we've got two different choices. Certainly one was door mounted previously. Then we are adding the indicator flappers. So we've got wing mounted or door mounted rear view mirror, depending on what you want to do. Then we've got this roof rack, which is photo etch, so that'll look nice and authentic. We've got build up the little trolley, which is the same trolley they use in their big box set. And then we've got the paper boxes, which are all printed on this page here. So we've got 47 steps to complete the build. So that all looks fairly straightforward. A lot of the build is around the engine, and you could knock some of that out if you were having this closed up. You wouldn't see a lot of it, so you wouldn't really even see the engine. So you might see the sump, so you might want to just put the block in. Okay, so you can cut these out at your leisure. They're going to be quite thin, so a little bit of care in making them. You might want to make maybe a little foam block or something you can wrap them around, don't know. They all appear to be the same dimension, so you've not got any different size boxes, but nonetheless, you've got boxes there that you can put on your wagon. You've got other boxes that you can have outside shops and all sorts of stuff, so they're really helpful. And then we are back to our paint instructions. So that is the instructions done. I'm going to wait for the sun to go, and then we'll have a look at some plastic, which for you is about right now. Then, first sprue out of the box. There's actually two of them. And it's got wheel sections on. So the tyres are made up of multiple parts. You've got two inner parts and you've got two outer parts, and that makes the tread pattern on the inside of the wheel really, really good. Yeah, it's a really nice way of working. We've got the brake drums on there, the wheel hubs on there, and you can see they're lovely and crisply moulded. Tiny little bit of flash on there, or heavy seam if I were being kind. We've got a suitcase here, which you won't be using in the van, but it's a really handy accessory for dioramas and bits and pieces. That part there is the support that goes underneath the mudguard at the front, and then this is the front seat for the saloon car, so you won't be using that, but again, could be handy, you never know. And then you've got all the little handles for the doors, one of the headlights, and the end of the petrol tank. So that lot there and that lot there you won't use. It's just the centre section, really, and the wheels. Then we have a little sprue that deals just with the little trolley for pushing around the boxes. And this is exactly the same as they've got in one or two of their other kits. So if you get the kit which has the packing cases, you get one of these as well. And I think it's also in one of the repair shops or garage sets or something like that. So what you get is the main frame, which does have a slightly wood texture to it. It's quite nice. You get a metal handle, which goes on the back there. 2 steel wheels, which are really nice. Really nicely done, the steel wheels. And then 2 little supports that go on the back there so that you can tip it down and rest it. So it's a very well thought out little kit. Builds up really nicely. I have built one before. Now this sprue has got parts on it that are all pretty much unique to the van, I think. The possible exception of that, but there must be another one of those. We'll have a look in a minute, because none of the other parts on here are related to the saloon car. Now that is, I think I must have cut that off at some point, but what we get is a different floor pan to the saloon. So the saloon one has twin seats, we'll see that in a minute, and then a seating arrangement at the back. So actually, in terms of the van, the floor pan was quite high, so you didn't get a lot of space in the back of the van. But yeah, we have the moulded on running boards and mud guards. There's some detail underneath, and then you've got the mount there for the front seat, and that line there is where your bulkhead's going to go to divide the van. I think the side panels go around there, and you won't, and then there's a floor that goes over the top and blanks it all off, so you won't see that lip. So it's a very nicely moulded piece. And then we've got here the roof. Now I wanted to look in the roof. Now this is interesting. There's actually a texture in the roof. It's quite rough in there, so I actually would be all right with painting that, but there is 4 ejector pins. If you can see that in the light, sort of like in the squares, there's an ejector pin. So maybe we want to smooth that for a sort of a steel smooth finish inside anyway. But yeah, that I think passes and doesn't need to be lined probably. That's our floor pan and our bulkhead. Then we've got a nice seat. It's not got nicely rendered. And then this is the component that forms the spare wheel. Spare wheel container sort of goes on that hollow there. Then we've got some nice panel sides. Nothing on the inside but ejector pin marks, so we'll have to clean them up if you're having the door open, which I think it'd be really nice to have the door open and see what we can do with in terms of putting some of those spare boxes in there. That's our rear light and number plate cluster. Not quite sure what that is. Might be to do with the door opening and closing, I would guess. And then we've got this rear door minus a handle, so we're probably taking one of the spare handles from the rear doors and using them on there. Yeah, that's all really nice. So this next sprue is the one that you typically get on for the saloon car and probably a number of the military staff cars as well. So we've got a back seat there, those three parts. Got the grille, the radiator, the steering wheel, parts for the suspension, that's the steering rod. That's the rear light system for the car, so you won't be using that. Some more parts of the suspension, some really nice bumpers, and they actually slightly spring-loaded when you cut them off, like the real thing. It's really cool. We've got the drive shaft there, the exhaust pipe, that's the firewall bulkhead, dashboard, and that's obviously the saloon car base there. Then we've got the bonnets. Now there is little dimples in the bonnets, there's a little sink in the bonnets. You can probably just get that in the light, they're ever so slight, but boy, they don't half show up under paint, so you do need to deal with them. Then we've got our bonnet side panels and the subframe underneath chassis. One or two other components as well. Gear levers and bits and pieces. Handbrake. Get you into those smaller parts. You might not be able to make it out, but the little vents on the side here, they are actually hollow. You can see through them, if I can get the angle right. I'm not sure I can get the angle on the camera. No, but those are see-through. That's really, really nice. And this is another sprue that's common to the saloon car, or two sprues. It's actually B and C. So we've got the doors, so we'll be using these front ones, and those are the door cards for the inside of them. But there's also the rear doors there, so if you need a spare door for a garage scene, that's perfect. So got lots of little spares here that are quite handy. So we've got the fuel tank there, and then we've got this absolutely stunning slide molded spring. Look at that. It was one of the highlights of the kit for me, that it really does look good. We've also got slide molded tail lights and rear view mirror, and I can't remember what that is. Then we've got, that's this spare wheel hub that mounts on the boot of the saloon, so we won't be using that. And that's the rack for the luggage, so we won't be using that either. That's the military lamp, so you won't be using that on this version. And then we've got indicator flappers, some bits of the suspension, fuel caps, and then we've got small bits and pieces that all go onto the engine, which is up here, the engine block, sump, and so on. So the manifold's in two parts and looks really good when it's come together. Yeah, so, and you even end up with a spare wheel hub there that you can, if you're not going to use the spare wheel, if you're having the door shut on the van, you've got a spare wheel there as well. So loads of spare parts depending on how you build the model, some of which you just won't be using on the van, but if you have the engine closed up, you'll even have things like spare fuel tanks and stuff. So if you want to have a little German garage scene at some point, you'll have loads of spares. The last grey plastic sprue is another set of wheels, brakes and hubs. So this effectively becomes your spare wheel, but you only had three, I think. We only had three or on the other set, so this basically makes up your extra one that you need. Okay, so we have our clear parts here, and actually these two here have got quite a bit of sink in them and don't look so great. And I don't remember that being the case on the first one I built. So I'm not sure what that is, but they are the front windows. So we don't know what we'd have to do about that. It needs some thought, maybe wind the window down or something, or replace with acetate maybe. Anyway, the other glazed parts are all lovely and clear. We've got our front window there. Headlamps look really nice when they're on. And then that is the glazed unit we'll use in the bulkhead to look into the back of the van. So that's all good, just unusual to see all that sink. It's not really showing up on camera, is it? Oh, there you go, you can just see it there. Just in that area there. Decal sheet next. It's a little bit crammed in, but it's all in there. Miniart decals are pretty good. Don't usually have any issues with them. They've got a little bit more carrier film than we'd like in places, but generally they're pretty good. No, you won't have any issues with those, I wouldn't imagine. And then finally we have our photo etch. And we've got, let's see if we can improve the light, that's better. So we've got a lot of strips there, and they all come together to make the roof rack, which is a really nice addition actually. We've got the grille, we've got those tiny windscreen wipers, one or two other bits that are used on the suspension, the horn ring there for the steering wheel. Just a little bit of etch where it's needed. It's not overboard, and will really enhance the look of it. We seem to have two of those Mercedes things for the grille, badges for the grille, which is good. But and we've got a rear view mirror there as well, and the other parts are for the bonnet. So there we have it, the Miniart Type 170V Lieferwargen van to you and me. What are my first impressions? Well, it's a typical Miniart offering, and it's like all their other Type 170V variants. It's a really nicely detailed kit that looks so realistic and authentic when it's built up. Now, my experience is that there is a little bit of care needed in the build-up of the bonnet area and the grille. Obviously, I've not built the van version, so how the sides and doors all marry up, we've yet to see. But I don't expect there to be any major problems. I think highlight of the kit is the going the extra mile with the boxes and the little trolley there. I think the roof rack is a nice addition. Really adds to it. They didn't need to add the boxes. A lot of manufacturers wouldn't, so that is really nice. Downsides of the kit, there isn't really any. Probably there needs to be a little bit more detailing in the back of the van, and I think maybe that's the area where if you want the back door open, you're going to have to look at doing some research and possibly doing some scratch building. But imagine what that will look like inside, weathered up with some boxes in. That could look really quite stunning. So very interesting little model, I think. When it's done, it will really bring some colour and life to any diorama scene, or just simply look great on your shelf. I think it's a lovely little kit. You know it's going to build up well. The detail's lovely. The moulding is crisp. It's the usual Miniart story of a bit of seam cleanup and careful fitting, bit fiddly in places. But if you take your time and you're patient, you'll end up with something that looks stunning. So yeah, I think this looks great. I'm looking forward to building it at some point in the future, and we'll be talking more about the diorama plans for this and some of the other first impression vehicles we've done in the not too distant future. So I hope that was interesting, informative. If you've been thinking about getting one of these vans, that's why we do this, to help you make decisions and understand what you're getting. So take care, everyone. Enjoy your modelling, and I will see you very soon.